The food was incredible, made by someone with the mystic cooking ability, and once they began to relax a little, the other immortals in the Dragon God followers clique began to chat amiably. You know, with your fighting skills, we should bring you to the clan's training grounds. They're a legendary separate space made by a demigod for us to train in. The wilderness is properly immortal-sized, 1,000 kilometers across, so there's room to hunt. Plus, you should have clan credits, right? Argoth asked.
Karl shrugged.
Nobody mentioned credits. I probably should have asked about that. But I have some crafting skills, and I can likely make something that will earn credits in a merchant clan. Ooh, a self-funding immortal. Now that is rare. You know, for as long as we live, you would think that there would be more, but everyone focuses on getting stronger, not on building wealth. There are a surprisingly high number of impoverished immortals. The werewolf laughed. Jean shrugged. He's not wrong. Everything that we get, we put into our cultivation. So it's actually rare for most immortals to have anything of real value, beyond their immediate needs. The Supremes, they're different. They tend to be fabulously wealthy, as they're the top of most immortal worlds, and they're the source of most of the supplies. You are system users, so you're not too concerned about it. But those who grow naturally without a system need all sorts of resources to help them grow. System users need some resources as well, but not nearly on the same level. Dana cast Karl a glance that the dragon didn't miss. Could they have a source of immortal rank magical resources? That would make them very popular. If you don't have credits, but you do have resources, you can take them to the clan supply house. They will trade them for either other resources or clan credits. If you want to lead a team into the trial grounds, you'll need credits. Jean explained.
Karl nodded.
We will head over there in a day or two, once we've settled into our room. It's been an eventful few days, and I'm not one who likes to constantly change surroundings. I like the familiarity. I will leave you to it, then. Come find me if you encounter any issues. I might not be on the Ascendant top rankings, but I've been around a long time. Jean agreed. Nyan and Jeff both rose when Karl and Dana did, and bowed to the table, while Dana waved a cheerful farewell to the mostly silent group. Halfway down the hallway, Jeff waved goodbye and silently entered his room, while Nyan followed them right to their door, expectantly waiting for them to open the door. Dana could see that the cat was actually quite clingy, and hated to be alone. But it looked like she wasn't actually good at building long-term allies, as she didn't seem to have any sort of clique or close social circle of her own. Whether that was a personality or power level issue wasn't clear. But Dana knew that Lotus would love her, and the cat was much more open than most others were. That would help them learn about this place before they got themselves into real trouble. Why don't you come in while we get settled? Tell us a bit about the rooms. The elder said that the rooms are a safe space, so that should mean that there is something special about them, right? Dana asked. Oh, they're exceptional. They have a supreme ranked anti-intruder charm on them so that nobody can see in or enter without permission. You have to actually open the door and let them in, unless they have the token of an elder. But even the elders can't see inside until they open the door. Oh, that is proper security. How often do the elders come to check on you? Do they do regular wellness checks, some routine intended to ensure that your progression is coming along well? Dana asked. Nyan giggled. No, if they want to see me, they use telepathy to call me to them. The elders have a token that lets them talk to people in their vicinity, so there is no need to bother coming all the way into the back dorms just to see us. I've seen them twice this year, and once was when they brought you too. Neither one involved them coming into my room. That's wonderful. For a married couple, you know how it can be. Privacy is important when you want to be alone, and in a compound full of immortals, you never know if you're going to find any privacy at all. Nyan nodded happily. The rooms are nice too. There is this front room, and then a big bedroom with lots of room for activities, and then a meditation chamber which is extra warded with a mana gathering array built into it. Then the tub. Oh, you got the really good tub, this is huge. And it has jets? I'm so envious. I just got a basic tub with the charms to keep the water hot. Yours has a whole massage and circulation thing going on. I wonder if someone added that themselves? These rooms usually only stay with the same person for a decade or two, in my experience. I've been here for a while, and Jeff has been here longer. But the new immortals have too many accidents, and they're often targeted for poaching by the other clans. Dana peeked into each of the rooms as Nyan gave the tour, and Carl took the time to make sure that someone on the Beast team had given proper updates to everyone inside of the tiny world so that they knew what was going on. That seemed like it might be important, as he had taken the space to another world with him. A small oversight on his part. Don't worry, Matilda was already here to grab the extra dragons. And she explained most of what is going on. The clan leader is a friend of hers, so she says that it should be fine while you adjust. Then there was something about not doing a thing, but I wasn't paying attention. Cara explained. We were supposed to tell Carl not to go outside the clan until he had an immortal spirit. Something about people wanting to kidnap him? Hawk replied, turning confused at the end. Kidnapping the Dana mage to blackmail him. Tian corrected helpfully. Right, that was it. Don't go outside until you have an immortal spirit so that they don't try to kidnap the Dana mage to capture you. Carl couldn't see how that was related to his immortal spirit's growth status, but both Ray and Thor were sleeping, and neither Kara nor Remy had been paying attention. While the others were explaining what Matilda had told them, Carl noticed that Kara was in the process of sneaking away. She had opened a portal from the tiny world to the Chaos Plane and vanished through with an assortment of loot from her space. That was new. She never took her loot out of her space unless she was giving gifts. Carl, I need to go back to the Lightning Mountain. Hawk insisted. Oh? Ready to face tribulation? Carl asked. I need to release some old power. Hawk agreed. Ray looked up from her web. Silly beasts, her goddess already recognized her innate status. There was no need for her to get struck by lightning to advance. She just had to finish brewing this bath. And she would be ready. Fermented immortal octopus ichor with a dash of supreme seasoning and some titan blood was just right. But it took time. Nyan looked around the room in panic. I feel something moving in the chaos plane. We need to close the door. She rushed over and slammed the door, then locked it and looked around fearfully. It's still here. That's the Chaos Badger. It's fine. She's just gone to see a guy about a thing. That is not comforting. Dana left. You will have to get used to that with Carl. His idea of what is fine is not the same as most people. When you spend as long as he did being virtually indestructible, you forget about threat assessments. But if it is her that you're feeling, then it's not a real problem. She's just stretching her legs, and the Chaos Plane is her home turf. Plus, Dana could read Kara's thoughts, and the Badger was making a 5-dimensional monument to something that really shouldn't exist in any reality. Just trying to comprehend her thoughts was giving Dana a headache, but it was giving Carl insights into chaos. Many things were possible that didn't seem to be until the influence of the Chaos Plane was factored in. Then, they became both impossible and highly probable at the same time. But more than just giving him insights into the fundamental rule, it was also giving Carl insights into how to rearrange his power matrix without greatly increasing the difficulty of creating new points. If he moved some of them to the 5th dimension, then cloned them all into the 4th dimension where time was malleable, he could double the number of points in his power matrix while actually decreasing the difficulty. So, Nyan, what does everyone do for fun here? Carl asked, distracting the cat from her panic about Kara playing in the Chaos Plane. They're really quite boring. Most of them just study and practice or talk about studying and practicing. Then they want to know how to get money for more resources, and where they could find the resources they would like to buy. You two seem like you'll be more fun than that. At least you've got a relationship, and you didn't devote your life to the path of the virgin cultivator. Dana left. Well, we do a lot of studying and crafting and such, but there is more to life than just studying. Nyan nodded eagerly. Did you know that there are some that don't even eat at the cafeteria because they think that the luxury of decent food is too much distraction from their path? How can you think that immortality is worth it when you live like that? Before Dana could answer, the disruption in the Chaos Plane caused them all to freeze. Whatever Kara was doing in the Chaos Plane was so extreme that it was causing ripples in the immortal worlds, and none of them knew if they extended beyond this room. If she was causing disruptions in the entire clan compound, countless people were going to be very unhappy with her. But nobody came pounding on their door, and despite Nyan going to hide under the table, Nothing in the room actually moved. It just felt like reality warped a little. Dozens of times a second, for 10 minutes. Then, it stopped and Kara came out of the chaos plane, looking inordinately pleased with herself. She was immortal, that much was clear. But that was not why she was looking proud of herself. Her advancement ritual had managed to tie a portion of her mind to the fourth dimension, allowing her to watch the flow of time at will. I thought that would be Opal's special skill. Dana noted dryly. Claramente listragd. It helps with the visions. I can see so much more now. I saw Matilda doing it and I finally figured out how. The cat is about to start crying, by the way. Dana pulled Nyan out from under the table and hugged the cat girl, who immediately began to purr. It's fine, the issue is resolved. Nyan, meet Kara. Kara. This is Nyan. She volunteered to show us around the clan. Kara shifted into humanoid form before Nyan turned around, so what the cat saw was not a chaos badger, but a small girl with a white stripe in her black hair over a scarred face, wearing cargo pants that had been turned into overalls for additional storage, with a tank top underneath. No, it was a sleeveless hoodie, as it had a pocket in the front. But the hood was full of cupcakes. You're a lot to take in. Thank you. Would you like a cupcake? They're freshly baked by the nature priestess. Nyan instinctively took the cake, then fumbled with it, as the entire thing was hot, except the top, which had been frozen so they could apply icing right away. How did you make cupcakes evil? What is this trickery? Oh, never mind. The temperature balances out after a couple of seconds. Cara Navid. They're quite good. Would you like to take a walk around the compound? These two need a bit of alone time to get settled in. Nyan smiled. Sure. Where is your room? I share this one. Don't worry about it. I'm bonded to Carl, so I have a separate space to rest in. Now, how about we go see the flower gardens? Dana put her foot against the door. You might not have been paying attention at the time, but Matilda said no outdoor chaos and shenanigans until we've got our immortal spirits stabilized and fully formed. Kara sighed, and then took out a pot of tea. In that case, let's have a snack here, Nyan. They can go to the bedroom. My friend Opal has some questions for you. Is the rumor that you also took on 3 men in the arena true? Dana bonked the badger on the head and gave the butterfly a mental warning to behave. All right, change of topics. Fashion. Sister Ray will join us soon, and she's going to want to know how everyone here likes to dress. While Kara and Nyan discussed fashion for Ray's benefit, Carl sat down on what passed for a sofa, but more closely resembled a huge beanbag chair. He would take this opportunity to rework his power matrix while the thoughts were still fresh in his mind, and while everyone else was distracted. Technically, Dana wasn't distracted yet, but when she heard all the things that Ray was planning to dress her up in, she definitely would be. It happened every time. The first thing that he had to do was to reorganize the existing positions of his formation so that it made sense from a fifth-dimensional perspective. That was going to be interesting. All that he had to go on was how Kara appeared, now that her expanded senses had improved Carl's own. However, he had only been able to perceive the difference for a few minutes. What he needed was another dragon. Well, he had a bunch in the tiny world, though they weren't chaos dragons. The closest that he could get was to try to blend Naksha's presence with Kara's, but while envisioning Matilda's dragon form. It took more work than he expected, but when he finished, the mana flow from the immortal world was as good or slightly better than it had been. That should be a sign that he got it right, or close to it. If he happened to meet another chaos dragon, he would be sure to memorize their appearance so that he could tweak the positions. But at this point it was more about his own visualization of the power matrix, as it related to his understanding of the fundamental rules, than the actual appearance. A few more tweaks attuned the matrix more closely to both the mana manipulation and chaos rules, and Carl felt the mana flowing into him improve exponentially. The change had revealed a hidden flaw in his original matrix. It was like a flat drawing of a dragon, missing a basic dimension. Now that he had addressed the issue, it was beginning to flow as usual. Then, he focused on Kara's understanding of the fourth dimension and duplicated the points. They seemed to fall right into place, existing in the past, present, and future all at the same time, as if it were only natural. Strangely, that didn't appear to change his mana regeneration rate at all, but it was having a profound effect on the mana quality he got after filtering the power through the matrix. It was still immortal power, but somehow more pure and less restrictive. It responded exactly how he wanted it to without the need to put the same effort into forming the skill through the system. Eternal Lightning became as natural as breathing, nearly a passive skill that refreshed itself from his mana pool, but still active in the back of his mind and able to be adjusted, unlike passive skills that were active all the time. The entire process had been deceptively easy, leaving Carl to wonder if this was how things were supposed to be at the immortal rank. Dana's voice swearing at him for upsetting her power balance told him otherwise.
Sorry.
I should have warned you when the adjustment was made. I hope that I didn't interrupt anything major. Dana shook her head. No, just an argument about formal wear. Letting Kara advance first was a mistake. Kara's grin always looked a bit evil with the scars on her face, but she was definitely trying to look innocent at the moment. Trying and failing.
Karl schrugged.
I'm sure it'll be fine. If Kara would wear it in public, it shouldn't be too terrible. Nyan laughed, and Dana shook her head. Did you finish your power matrix realignment? She asked, changing the topic. I did. It's much better now. Mana flows more smoothly, and the refinement level of the immortal energy is better. The impurities in it are mostly gone now, and I don't have nearly as many issues activating skills with the change in power. Carl explained the details with a directed thought, unwilling to spill all the details in front of Nyan, no matter how friendly the cat girl was. You should sleep or meditate, possibly unpack? I don't see luggage or storage rings, but that doesn't mean much. I will return to my room and come get you in the morning for breakfast to help you get used to the routine here. Nyan insisted suddenly, jumping to her feet as if she had just remembered something. All right, we will see you soon. That would also give Carl the chance to check on how Hawk was doing, as he hadn't dared to keep a portal open from the tiny world back home when there was another immortal in the room. She might put on an innocent and clueless front, but nobody made it to immortality without at least stepping on a few bodies. Once the door was closed and locked behind her, Carl immediately extended his senses to make sure that nobody was looking in on them, then opened a small viewing portal back to the Tribulation Mountains, where Hawk had gone to undergo his trial. The storm was already forming around him, but Hawk had filled the whole area with fire, overwhelming the storm and constantly burning away the clouds. Dana's amusement at the fact that Hawk had actually altered his immortal tribulation to eliminate the chance that it would rain on him flowed through the mental link, and Remy began making her own plans to set the stage for her advancement. If Hawk got to set up a little piece of the fire elemental plane for his tribulation, she could make her own Naga swamp scene. But her thoughts gave Hawk a great idea. He didn't know how to portal, but Kara did, and he knew where the plane of fire was. He didn't want to advance there. He was a dark flame phoenix, not a pure fire elemental being. But opening a portal would let much more element-rich mana flow into the region and warm it up enough that he shouldn't have to deal with any more clouds. The first bolt of lightning shook all the immortals on the Dragon Isles out of a sound slumber. They hadn't sensed anyone reaching tribulation on the continents, but there was definitely one beginning, and they hadn't sensed an intrusion from any of their monitored worlds. That was only natural, as Carl's tiny world had been created in Drod, so it still felt like part of their own world, even as the mana in it had begun to change and adapt to the immortal world where Carl was now living. Azof was the first to react, teleporting himself through a microscopic portal to oversee the advancement. Oh, it's you. I thought that you left with Carl? Never mind. Finish what you are doing, and I will keep watch. Hawk nodded in satisfaction. That immortal wasn't all bad. Even if he didn't have wings. The first strikes of the tribulation lightning crashed into Hawk's flaming body barrier, and the bird keened in joy as he felt the power surge into him. Like most beasts, he had a much easier time advancing than humans, but unlike most, he had undergone multiple evolutions to reach immortality, and he had to purge some of the remaining mortal energy from his body. It wouldn't advance without it, even though he had so thoroughly remade himself in the flames of the dungeon during his last advancement. The lightning struck again, burning away the lingering mortal world energy, as Hawk drew in the residual power of tribulation to replace it. The more power that he could channel into his barrier, the faster that the energy was replaced, and Hawk briefly bemoaned the fact that he was so efficient with his mana use after a lifetime of practice. If he hadn't put so much effort into punishing water magic, could he have finished this whole tribulation faster? Did the difference in time even matter? Were there mice in the immortal worlds? Those were the important questions that were plaguing his mind as the lightning struck again and again, remaking his power into that of a true immortal. The fourth and fifth volleys came nearly on top of each other, the two blending almost seamlessly as the dark flame phoenix transformed and expanded, his body enlarging as Hawk adapted to immortality. Now, he was a truly prodigious 30 meters in wingspan, nearly large enough to compete with the dragons for a size competition. But he was still much more delicate and agile than the massive reptiles, and he was certain that his air speed superiority would not be compromised. Unlike Karl's advancement, only Azoth had come to cheer Hawk on, but that was because the immortal had locked down the area, warning everyone else away from the advancement of an immortal beast on their world. The immortals all knew about Karl's team, and assumed that this was the first of them to reach immortality, as no others had come back for a tribulation. It was too soon for Karl to return, even if it was just for a visit. His immortal spirit wasn't stable and formed yet, which would leave him vulnerable to attacks by immortal realm cultivators. The spirit was a sort of anchor point for immortality. The initial stages of immortal spirit formation didn't do much to increase your maximum power. What they did was to massively decrease the amount of energy needed to perform actions and use skills. With a fully formed immortal spirit, they would have far fewer fears of running out of mana unless they were using their strongest attacks repeatedly. It was when they started to transform the spirit and become a void rank immortal that their power truly began to progress. But beyond the mana cost reduction, the immortal spirit also protected against soul-based attacks and lingering damage to the essence. It separated the mortal soul from the immortal with a layer of immortal essence, and imbued the very core of the immortal with a bit of power that they had never been capable of attaining before. Until it was stable, attacks that targeted mortality, like instant death, could still target them by ending their lifespan. Or skills like Decrepify and instant aging could be used on an immortal to effectively cripple them for life in an ancient body. Once the immortal spirit was formed, an immortal would heal from those attacks naturally. Hawk wasn't there yet, but he understood the process instinctively, and he would start on the work soon. He was done with the lightning part, and the Azoth immortal was putting out the fires on the mountain where his power had scattered under the lightning barrage so he could go back to his perch and nap. Now, advancing was exhausting when it involved getting hit by lightning. Azoth frowned as Hawk simply vanished back through the portal Karl was using to watch. Karl waved at him as the immortal turned to see where Hawk had gone, in case there was going to be an immortal rank bird wandering around the Dragon Isles as his power adjusted. Inside Karl's space, there was no threat to others, so Azoth just waved back and let Karl close the portal before it caught anyone's attention on the immortal world. They might not keep a close eye on everything that happened, because of the pure volume of phenomenon, but a sustained portal to another world, especially one in the mortal realms, would cause someone to investigate eventually. Well, that's two of us now. So, when are Brother Tion and Brother Thor going to advance? We already know that Sister Ray is going to be soon, and Sister Remy is busy. Leo asked. Opal's panic briefly concerned the others. She had just realized that she put so much focus on getting more data for her film collections that she had forgotten about growing her own power. She was doing well with her fundamental rule of illusions, but her body still wasn't at the peak of mythic rank. The others might advance right away, but she was going to need weeks, maybe months, to catch up, even with this improved energy in her space. The next morning came fast in the immortal world, and Karl briefly wondered if there was a difference in the length of the days, only to have his system interface cheerfully inform him that it was currently 5:30 in the morning, and someone was knocking on their door. If that's Nyan, I am going to cover her in glitter and throw her to Lotus and Button. Karl complained as he got out of bed. Ophelia will murder you if you get them covered in glitter. Karl dressed in a seat of black robes that Ray had made, then frowned at his human hands, not used to seeing them after so much time in cat demon form. Also, he was short. Well, not short by human standards, he was still a bit over 180 centimeters tall. But he was a full 10 centimeters shorter than he was used to being. He briefly considered using Behemoth to adjust his size, but gave up and left his size in its natural state. When he swung the door open, Nyan was waiting outside, still in her pajamas. "Good morning. The breakfast buffet is open, and it's best to go early so that they don't sell out of the good stuff before we get there. They hate having leftovers, so they stop refilling it later in the morning." Behind him, Dana laughed at the cat girl's wild hair and flannel pajamas. She was clearly too excited about getting here for breakfast. "All right, give me 30 seconds to get ready and I will join you. Come in, no need to wait in the hallway." Kara straightened herself and adjusted her hair into a 3-row braid, separating the white from the black sections, then came out to join them. "So what do they have for breakfast? Something good? Rare plant immortal resources? Baked treats?" she asked. Mostly not immortal ranked. It's just breakfast, not some special feast. But it's really good." "Garastragd." "That's fine. We can go out and make new friends, and that's enough for day 2. Nyan looked at the small round ears on the badger's head, and began to panic about how she could tell Kara that half the clan would demand that she be thrown out, while most of the others would be afraid to let her near them once they realized that she was a chaos badger, not a beastkin. However, if she didn't tell them, they wouldn't know, right? They could all go for breakfast, explore the clan compound, and then she could see what the new immortals did for training. Maybe it would help her, since they also had an uncommon system. Most of the immortals in this world were either from here or from a half-dozen powerful mortal worlds that generated regular immortal advancements. The only other one from her world was the moron, and his mind was so cracked that he wasn't a lot of help. The fact that he had managed to get himself to immortality was some sort of miracle, she assumed. There was no way that natural selection should have allowed him to live long enough to gain power. Surprisingly, there were actually people in the dining hall when they arrived. Nyan usually went this early because she was the only one there, and the buffet dishes were completely full, with all the options available. Fortunately, they were still restocking everything as it was selected, so she didn't miss out on anything. "We thought that the cat might wake you all up bright and early." "Wait, were there always 3 of you?" a large wrath demon asked. Kara frowned at him. "Of course. New immortals don't just appear out of thin air." The demon frowned back. His memory should be better than that, especially when it came to duels. He never forgot a duel. "You didn't duel yesterday," he insisted. "Nobody asked me. I'm quite unobtrusive when I want to be." The wrath demon smiled. "Then I will duel you today. Do you have a system? Or are you growing naturally?" "All natural, baby. A bit of immortality ain't nothing compared to this potential." Kara insisted with an overdone sweet-sounding accent that Carl didn't recognize. The demon thumped the seat beside him. "Bring your people to eat. We will spar after we eat. No hiding from the fun parts today." Carl laughed at the concerned look on Nyan's face. "Don't worry about Kara. Nobody willingly duels her twice, so she must be pretty good at it." Good at it was a matter of interpretation. Of course, nobody tried to duel her twice. She was looking forward to it today. She was going to get to test out her new strength and try to understand why she didn't get an over-ranked skill this advancement. Had she finally reached her potential? The point where her body and her skills were coming into balance should be near to adulthood. Carl grabbed a bit of everything that looked good, while Kara stacked pastries around a mountain of scrambled eggs covered in hot sauce and what he hoped was mayonnaise. Dana initially just picked a few things that she wanted to try. Then Nyan loaded small samples of everything else that she liked onto the plate for Dana to try. The wrath demon and his friends gave her matching bemused smiles. It was a side effect of being a fox. You made friends even if you didn't want to. Tion thought that it was a good sign. If everyone treated Dana that well, then they should also treat him well when he advanced. He wasn't quite right. She was a full-grown woman. He was a 3-kilo pure white fox. Tion was much more likely to be treated as a fluffy pet than a new friend, though he was unlikely to be able to tell the difference. Friendly meant friend in his brain. The dining hall began to fill fast 15 minutes after they arrived, and they were attracting a lot of attention, sitting with the table full of wrath demons. Even in a world where the powerful ruled, the wrath demons were among the most violent adherents of the might makes right philosophy. The 2 new arrivals had proven themselves well in the duel, but it normally took much more than that to impress the demons. that led many to suspect that Carl and Dana had a secret, either about their origin or about their skills. There had to be something that impressed the demons. Nobody was paying any attention to Kara, whose form made her look like a middle school student. There were plenty of immortal children in the clan, but they weren't real immortals in a combat power sense. They had an unlimited lifespan, but they didn't have the power to back it up, and they had to be protected by the clan so that they were not abducted and brainwashed to work for another clan. But her breakfast, what was that? It was making people's eyes water from 2 tables away, just radiating spice from whatever she had put on the egg mountain. She was eating it while humming a happy song. The hot sauce was something that the Wrath demons loved, made from a magma chili, combining fire magic with spice for a uniquely hot sauce. But most of them didn't use it as a primary flavor for eggs. As soon as her plate was empty, the big demon started to get an excited look in his eyes. He could tell that she was not one of the children from the academy. He knew all of them already. He was their combat skills trainer, which meant that this was an actual teen immortal, ascended from whatever world had proven capable of fostering such a prodigy. He did suspect that she might actually be a form of divine beast, reaching immortality before adulthood. But she looked like she had seen some stuff, not one of those soft and worthless students. All right, let's go to the training grounds. I will assess your level, and if you need remedial lessons, I will get you enrolled in classes. Kara's smile made him immediately wish to retract that statement. Kara reached up and grabbed his hand to drag him out to the sparring arena, and the other Wrath demons began to laugh. The tiny one was either brave or stupid, and they were 100% on board with her brand of crazy. The match goes to first blood. That is standard for the clan's rules on sparring with children. The demon insisted. That's a bit offensive. Do they think that I can't take a hit? He chuckled and shrugged. I've said the same thing, but rules are rules. That's what happens when the humans are left in charge. They like to coddle their children in the strangest ways, while testing them in others. Carl adjusted his aura so it was at about half output, close to matching that of the others in the area. That seemed like the best option, but he quickly noticed that he was getting fearful looks from many of the immortals. Nyan looked up at him. I get it now. Why you suppress your aura. I was serving an evil cultivator sect when I first arrived in this world, and most of them didn't have an aura that could compare to yours. How did you end up with someone as lovely as Miss Dana with an aura like that? Hers is so pure and innocent, highly huggable. The other immortals nodded in agreement. Dana's aura was more suited to a divine cultivation sect, where they focused on purity and good deeds to build karma. But Carl felt like a leashed predator picking out a meal when he looked at you. The Wrath demons decided that they liked him. The one in the ring with Kara didn't notice. He was too busy trying to analyze his opponent. He had a skill for it, and he could normally read the system information of most of the children, no matter where they came from, but Kara's information all came up either corrupted or constantly changing. After a moment, he gave up on it and waited for their referee to start the match. One of the Ascendant Immortals hopped up on the judge's elevated chair and blew the whistle, beginning the match. The Wrath Demon activated a fire barrier and swung his axe, aiming at Kara. But she vanished behind a black disintegrate barrier and then launched at his face like a missile. With both hands on the axe, he couldn't grab her in time. He only managed to block her momentum. But Kara wouldn't let that stop her. She used his axe as leverage to throw herself on his face and grab his beard to feed him a flurry of punches. The demons in the crowd laughed at the insane girl. Of all the things that had happened to the combat instructor in the past century, having a small girl hang off his beard to punch his face was a new one. He roared and took one hand off his axe. But when he grabbed Kara, she seemed to go boneless, twisting in his hand and producing a pair of daggers to attack his forearm. The badger was hurled to the ground and rolled to her feet with a pleased grin on her scarred face, while the demon spit out a mouthful of blood. He was not treating her like a human child anymore. That was a wild animal in human form. Kara was impressed. It only took him one exchange to figure it out, and he had stopped trying to be gentle with her. The axe streaked past Kara's barrier as she dodged again, and then a fire skill exploded all around her as she charged inside his guard again. For a moment, The pair looked evenly matched. Then Kara was sent flying again, overwhelmed by the power of her opponent. The combat instructor smiled as she reached the top of the arc. Few immortals would be able to adjust their trajectory fast enough to dodge his next attack. Then, Kara transformed back to a Chaos Badger, and her winged form seemed to stop dead in the air, only to have 100 Chaos Blast attacks explode around his body, tearing at the flames of his barrier. Kara grabbed his axe and clawed at his hand, stopping the attack. Misunderstanding her intentions, he dropped the axe and coated a fist in fire to crush the agile badger. However, Kara dropped to the ground and transformed back to humanoid, so she could run around in celebration with his axe in her hands. It was a really nice one, and he called it back. No fun. Shit, it's a Chaos Badger. Who's got the wagers? We need a new category. I've got 5 spirit element stones that says he gives up in frustration. One of the immortals shouted. I've got an epic amulet that says she licks him during the fight.
Karl joked.
No betting on that. She already did it when she was stealing his axe. Karl laughed as the two combatants clashed over and over, with the demon trying to catch Kara so that she would stop escaping from his axe strikes. He couldn't understand how she kept managing it. Part of it was that Kara was activating haste from Karl's repertoire of class skills. But most of it was just that the badger knew how to teleport but only used it a few centimeters at a time, so everyone knew that she was simply dodging attacks. It's really hard to make him bleed.
Karak en plan.
He's a wrath demon. Of course, it's difficult to make him bleed. You should have targeted his upper arm, where there's no armor. You could have landed a solid hit. The two went at it for a while, with the combat instructor holding back his power level a little to test Kara's skills and not just her pure power level. He'd already caught on to her tricks, and he was adjusting his attacks for the most likely directions that she would evade, which was causing Kara to take more hits, though she had managed to land a few of her own. Then, a slight shift in weight as the demon feinted to the right tricked Kara, and she moved to parry the attack, only to be caught in a massive hand. Her arms were pinned at her side, and she wriggled furiously, then licked his hand, which made the combat instructor laugh. Fine, you win, she admitted. You are a most excellent opponent. If I hadn't spent centuries training students, you likely would have managed to frustrate me to death.
Kara.
Ameldor. The crowd cheered and jeered as they settled their wagers, and a few more children came out to see what was going on. They had heard from others that there was a girl challenging the combat instructor, and they wanted to know who was that brave. But they didn't know this one. She was clearly a young immortal years from adulthood, but she was new, and her power level was much higher than any of theirs. Here we go, Kara is going to cause chaos with the school children. Remy laughed as the kids waited nearby for the instructor to be finished talking to Kara. Jean, the divine fire dragon who was the head of security force training, came over to pat Ameldor on the shoulder. Well, friend, it looks like we've both met a new conundrum. Ameldor nodded. Conundrum indeed. She's certainly of the age to be with the other students. But I wouldn't dare ask the teachers to deal with that. On the other hand, it might be against clan rules to allow a child to remain uneducated within the clan compound. And while she's here, the security force will have to be extra alert for pranks, traps, and surprise events. Jean agreed. Hawk transformed into a demon crow using Unholy Beast transformation, which allowed him to sit on Karl's shoulder to watch the show in person, instead of from his space. There's another one? Where are the immortal beasts coming from? Jean complained. Sorry, they're my bonded partners. Jean, meet Hawk, the Dark Flame Phoenix. His full form was inconvenient for spectating, so he reduced it with a transformation. Will there be more?
Karl smiled.
Oh, there are more. They're just adjusting to the new environment at the moment and not ready to socialize. Some of them aren't a major concern for others, but I will ask the predatory ones to behave. That also wasn't horribly comforting. All right, as a resident of the clan, I will trust your judgment and ask that you take responsibility for keeping your beasts under control, if that's even possible. Jean stared pointedly at Kara, who laughed and brought out a cupcake for him. Thanks? Is it custom where you come from to have dessert after breakfast? Kara just laughed. No, I simply like cupcakes. Jean juggled the cupcake in his hand for a second as the temperature balanced, and Nyan frowned. She had nearly panicked when Kara handed her those strange snacks, but the dragon figured it out right away. What she didn't know was that the trick of freezing the top was actually common with green dragons, who got impatient for their dessert to be ready. So he had experienced it many times before. They also liked making them with hot liquid chocolate in the middle and ice cream on top. Keeping them in your inventory kept them in the same state you received them, so you still had to let them cool before eating if you didn't want to use a plate and cutlery. Can you show me that escape technique? One of the boys asked Kara, ignoring the look that Ameldor was giving him. Oh sure. The basics are actually very simple. Do you have a training weapon? Have a good stick I can use as a sword to demonstrate. Kara took out a police baton, and the student gave her a strange look. That was a mythic rank stun baton. In what world did it count as a good stick for demonstrations? Ameldor smiled. Perhaps her brand of chaos might make his life easier. The kids would learn fast if she started to shock them when they failed. The headmaster wouldn't let him do that. All right, you attack me and I will show you the skill a bit slower than I did against the big boss, and then you can try.
Kara explained.
The boy nodded eagerly and took a swing at her with a blunted training sword. Kara swayed, lifted one foot to step in the air, and then kicked the other to the side, in what looked like a graceful ballet dance, if her hands weren't remaining in a combat-ready stance. She had shifted nearly a meter to the side, but she was using the ability of an immortal to fly to move her body. The movement of her legs was only to get her body out of the way of the blade. It wasn't part of the movement skill. It also wasn't how she had done it during the last fight at all. She was tricking the boy into dancing in combat. Kara gestured with her baton, and the boy tried to evade the way that she did. But while he was born immortal, he wasn't immortal rank and couldn't walk on air. So he promptly fell on his backside.
No, no.
Not like that at all. Keep your balance, sway your body clear of the skill, and use the leg for balance as you sideslip. Like this. Kara demonstrated again, using an entirely different movement that would more conventionally dodge a blade, the way that a four-legged badger would avoid a paw. Ameldor covered his mouth to hide his laughter as the boy attempted it and got stunned with the baton, leaving him twitching on the ground. Close. Again. You'll get it in 1 or 2 more tries. The boy failed again, and then to everyone's shock, he actually did it, dodging the baton with his body at an impossible angle, and his feet sliding through the sand. It wasn't elegant, and he nearly fell over again, but he dodged the first strike. Good. Now, we just need to practice it until you can do it for multiple attacks and string it together into an evasion technique that leaves you in position to attack.
Kara insisted.
Are you Mr. Ameldor's new assistant? The boy asked fearfully. I'm trying to convince him that I should be your new classmate. Do you have fun classes other than his? The kids looked at her like she was crazy. You think his class is fun? The combat instructor is a slave driver. He terrorizes us in class. But some of the classes are fun. We have arts courses in the afternoon, where we can make clay sculptures or paint. That is a lot of fun. That sounds fun. I will ask Mr. Ameldor to let me go to class with all of you. We can make the most wonderful statues and paintings. With runecrafting, Kara mentally added.
Dana sighed.
If Kara started making runecrafted items in arts and crafts class with a bunch of children, there really was going to be chaos. But trying to stop her would only make her more determined to make her days memorable before someone really did manage to keep her away. It was better to let her get it out of her system. Jean leaned over to whisper in Dana's ear. You're not going to try to stop her? You know that the Chaos Badger doesn't have the mind of a small child.
Dana shrugged.
In some ways, she does. But she won't actually harm them. She just wants to play around all day today. Think of her like a chaotic teacher's assistant, if that helps. The dragon rolled his eyes. Chaotic and teacher's assistant didn't belong in the same sentence, as far as he was concerned. But the divine fire dragons were part of the order-aligned portion of the pantheon, and they never did get along well with the chaos dragons or their allies. As long as she doesn't cause major troubles for Karl, he will be held responsible for any damages she causes.
Dana nodded.
You worry much more than he does about it. Kara knows the limits of what are acceptable pranks. Like most dragons, Jean associated chaos with malicious intent. It really wasn't. At best, chaos was neutral, not caring about the fallout of your actions. If you were being deliberately malicious or benevolent, you were actually reducing the amount of chaotic behavior. Besides, Kara liked children. Why don't I accompany Miss Nyan to show you around the compound? Her navigational skills tend to leave much to be desired. Jean offered. The more, the merrier. Did you have somewhere in mind? Why don't we start with the library? The main doors are there at the edge of the arena courtyard, and every mage is usually a fan of it. It's also right near the skill book repository. That one is a bit more restricted, as you need to purchase them to take them out. But if you have something to trade, you might find something good. Nyan nodded eagerly. It's a really good place, but really expensive. Well, skills are valuable to everyone, and there are never enough people who can write new skill books to replace the ones that others want to use, so the price would naturally be high. Dana agreed. And you can't forget that nobody is willing to turn in new skill books that they find because they're so valuable to keep for trade, or to recruit disciples. If you get a good skill book, you can almost guarantee yourself a follower. Nyan added. Oh, the recruiting with rare skills tactic. A true classic.
Karl joked.
You say that like you've done it before. Jean noted. Maybe once or twice. You had quite the interesting life in the mortal realms, didn't you? I heard that you were a branch leader of a guild while you were there, but it sounds like there was much more to it than just the usual drudgery of managing the schedules of the members they had recruited to run dungeons and keep the guild afloat. The Darklight Host is an interesting sort of guild. It's existed far longer than any of our living members, as far as I know. But it is also a gathering spot for craftsmen and those with rare classes who don't really fit in the mold of other guilds and their dungeon or group mission-focused team building. Instead, we focused on trade skills, learning crafts that would help balance out our odd skills. Karl offered. That does sound fun. See, being a divine fire dragon, I never got to have all that fun. It was duty and training as a child, duty and training others as an adult. We're very responsibility-driven. Nyan smiled. I can vouch for that. Jean is one of the most responsible members of the clan. That's why he gets to train the security forces. But the Divine Fire Dragon lineage are royalty on many of the immortal worlds, so he's got big expectations to live up to. Jean nodded. My own father, grandfather, and great-grandfather are all supreme-rank dragons, and still alive, governing their own lesser realms. That really was a crushing level of expectations for him. Jean led them over to the library, a beautifully artistic design 5 stories tall that didn't seem to match any of the other architecture in the compound. This library was built only 200 years ago by one of our members, who felt that they could revolutionize architectural style. That didn't pan out. However, the library is a work of art, and it holds all the common books that anyone could wish to read. It is open to all of our members. Even the mortal servants have access to the library. You will find everyone there at some point, researching something that might help their growth. It also has the historical books copied, and they're quite commonly useful when looking for rare resources. Sometimes you'll see people in here every day for months, looking for a super rare resource like black elf grass, or rumors of where it was seen growing in the past so that they can go on a trip to go look for it. If they can find a resource like that, they can make a breakthrough, or perhaps complete a super rare alchemical concoction. Is it that rare? Dana asked. Black elf grass? It's a legendary lost magical plant. So many ancient recipes need it, but it no longer exists. I spent 20 years looking for it without finding any. Jean replied with a deep sigh. Dana smirked and Karl reached into Thor's space, where the plant grew as a weed. Here. It's only mythic rank, but I've got a bunch. You didn't need the roots, did you? The dragons stared at them. The people passing by stared at them. The guard at the library gate stared at them. What? I've been growing it in the garden at the guild house for years. That was the first time that Karl had ever seen someone actually spit up blood in rage. The sight was equal parts concerning and fascinating, especially for Ray, who wondered if there was a special technique to make them do that on demand. It was practically a free donation. Jean stared at the grass in his hand. I can really have this?
Karl nodded.
I've got enough. Call it a first meeting gift. The other immortals glared at Jean, who was holding his treasure with a level of reverence usually reserved for holy relics and babies. It was much more entertaining than Dana had expected, and she knew that nobody would miss it when most of the beasts had acres of it in their spaces. It was just too good as a base plant to support other magical resources. They were about to drag Jean into the library when a short man with a long white beard came running up. The disciples tell me that you have black elf grass. The man gasped. Indeed I do. Did you need to purchase some? Karl agreed. How much do you have? Enough. Let me know how much you need, and I will tell you if I have it. The old man seemed to mentally recalibrate, and then smiled. If you have a whole kilogram, I will buy it all at twice the clan warehouse turn in price. In clan credits. A few of the others scoffed at his offer to pay in clan credits. He was the head of the alchemy department. The credits meant nothing to him. This was a blatant attempt to scam the newbies out of what remained of their rare resources. But Karl simply frowned. I don't know what it's worth in clan credits. We haven't gotten to the warehouse yet to see exchange rates. Jean chuckled. If you really have a kilogram of it, the credits would be worth what I spend in half a year. Oh, that makes it easier. All right, I can make the exchange. Thor weighed out exactly 1 kilogram for them out of his cut and partially dried feed pile. There was no need to give shoppers the freshest stuff. They could get the grass he cleared to keep it from growing into his other stuff. Karl held out the stack of wilted grass stalks, and the alchemy master grabbed them excitedly. This is it. This really black elf grass. Who knew that the reason we couldn't find it was because it grew in some shielded mortal world? He muttered. Actually, it doesn't. I collected it from a trial and took it home to grow more. Now, about those credits. The old man nodded repeatedly. Just take this note to the warehouse, and they will record it for you. Man, being an elder is just too cheap. Handing out a fortune to get a single ingredient for his cultivation pills, using clan credits instead of having to hunt for resources. Someone muttered in the background, causing the old man to turn. I will have you know that I earn my credits like everyone else. I have been making potions and pills for the clan for 1,000 years. Did you think I can't afford to buy resources when they come to my front step? He demanded. Sorry, elder. The clan members scattered, and the old alchemist rushed off to whatever he was doing before he heard about the elf grass. It's a good thing that elf grass makes such good Sero feed. Who knew that it was so popular everywhere that we go? Karl asked. Jean looked pained. I'm going to pretend that I didn't hear you saying that you feed it to a Sero. My heart isn't ready for that. Now, we've got the main floor of the library in front of us. This is all modern books, the topics vary, like any good library, but this floor doesn't contain any truly rare or obscure tomes. It has most of the fiction titles, the romance and light reading books that are most commonly checked out. The second floor contains mostly research materials on various topics. They lean heavily toward equipment crafting, alchemy, and other common trade skills, but there are some less popular ones there as well. I believe that the second floor contains just short of 100,000 nonfiction titles and manuscripts. Above that are the design blueprints, engineering designs, crafting recipes, and other non-magical reference materials for construction of physical objects. Then the upper floors are the less used or ancient tomes, and you need to get a token to access them, as all access is tracked in case of damage. Remy was going to love this place. Remy's excited noises caused Ray to look up from preparing her bath. Everything was perfectly fermented, brewed, and balanced, ready for a good soak, especially now that her space was flooded with immortal energy purified by Karl's new matrix. The library was sure to get her excited. Not a big deal, so Ray returned to her work. What she needed now was the perfect base for her scrub brush. The bath itself was just right, but her old scrub brush wasn't going to be tough enough to get the stuck bits of her old chitin off. There had to be just the right thing in here somewhere. Then she found it. There was a jawbone from a mythic rank giant, with all its teeth intact. A little chopping, shaping, and binding, and she had the perfect scrub brush that would slip onto the end of one of her legs for those hard-to-reach places. Ray settled into her bath and began flooding her space with power, drawing it from the other spaces and from Carl, so that the energy density of her space was nearly stifling. That was what she needed to keep the energy levels of the bath up while she absorbed all the vitality out of it. As she advanced, the amount of mana that was needed to extract the vitality was growing, as the blood itself resisted being stripped of its vitality. But her space was the perfect environment for it. The warmth made every cell in her body tingle as she merged the immortal essence with her own power. A vision came unbidden to her mind, the natural way of advancement, which any other bloodbath spider would have used. Instead of creating a beautifully balanced bath like this, they would find a much larger monster like a giant or drake and kill it in a way that minimized blood loss. Then, they would cut open the abdomen and climb inside to absorb the vital essence directly. Sometimes one would not be enough, usually because they had chosen a target who was either too young or too near the end of its lifespan, and they would have to hunt another while stuck in a soft-bodied half-evolved state. That was a common source of death or failed evolution for her species. But she had so many resources here that there was no need for such primitive tactics. Going for the bath within moments of death was still the best way, but her space stopped the vital essence of the blood from escaping, so she could store it for later use without it becoming ineffective. That was an advantage others lacked. Ray could feel her goddess pleasure with her tactic, and the hints of dark divinity that seeped into her bath when the spider goddess was watching. That made her bath go even more quickly, and Ray's body was beginning to shed its old outer layer as she regrew a new immortal rank body underneath it. She was getting larger as well, possibly a side effect of repeatedly using giant blood in her baths. Not to the point that she was ridiculous-sized, but enough that she was definitely going to have to shrink herself or transform to hunt humans indoors. This time, the internal changes to her body were much more extreme than the ones to the exterior. She had already optimized her spider form through every evolution before immortality. It didn't need much change, even if it was growing larger. But the interior was a completely different story. The body of an immortal beast was not made of the same sorts of cells as a mortal realm beast. The cell walls were lined with power, recording her form to be reborn from even the smallest portion if given the chance. Killing her, or any beast like her, was not about destroying the body, but destroying the vital essence that it contained. Immortal ranked skills did that very well. But most powerful skills did. That might not be true of all systems, Ray realized, but it was true of spiders. Especially bloodbath spiders, and the blood destruction demonic spider that she had evolved into. The power of the supreme ranked octopus blood was proving to be incredibly difficult to absorb, as if she didn't quite comprehend the nature of its vital essence, even if she was managing to store it within her cells. It was how she had always advanced, though. A lot of blood from one rank above herself, a bit from something 2 ranks over herself. The formula was tried and true. What she was learning today was that the difference between a new immortal and a supreme was larger than the difference between a commander and a myth. They might as well not even be of the same type of being. The bath began to vanish, pulled into her body and refined. But this time it didn't leave the drained blood behind. Her body could now refine the blood so effectively that all it left behind were wisps of energy and a bit of dust. It was rather pleasing, as she didn't have to discard the dregs, and her tub was nearly cleaned again, with only a quick dusting needed for next time. And now that she had advanced, her space was changing. It wasn't getting bright or any such nonsense like that. But the trees she had planted were evolving under the pressure of the immortal energy, and some of the decorations were beginning to pulse with a dark power. It gave off an aura of death, terror and necromantic magic that Ray was enthralled with. She couldn't have done it better if she had tried to do it intentionally. Her space simply adjusted to be perfect for her powers. And there were new powers, she noticed, added to her golems and army of the dead spells she also now had. Undead minions. Undead minions summoning ability. Calls forth a group of undead servants from the underworld of a species previously killed by the summoner. That was an excellent spell, she was certain, and she hadn't even gotten to test it yet. Just the promise of getting to call back things she had killed before made it sound like so much more fun than the army of the dead and its spectral knights. They were great fighters, but there was nothing quite like sending their former allies back to fight against her enemies. Jean felt the change in Carl's power and aura as Ray advanced, and began feeding more powerful energy back into his body. At first, he thought that Carl had found something that angered him, as the change had a murderous edge to it, but his expression didn't change at all. In fact, he was happily searching through fiction books with Dana. Perhaps it was something to do with the bonded beasts he had mentioned? If they were still adjusting to the advancement to immortality, their auras might be bleeding through and affecting Carl's. That was close to the truth, but their auras actually changed Carl's and didn't just overlay it. He chose to ignore it, but the bird on Carl's shoulder was giving him a sense of unease, as if they were simply waiting for something to happen. Something more extreme than setting the Chaos Badger loose among the school children. Eventually, they made their way to the side exit, and Dana gave the library a longing glance. You can come back any time. However, I really should finish the tour so that you can find your way around. The compound is larger than it looks, even if you don't stumble into one of the separate spaces. You were placed in the back dorms, but the cafeteria is also considered part of the back compound. Here, we've got the skill repository, which I'm sure you're eager to see. There are some restrictions on it, though. Only one person can enter at a time, and you have to prove that you have the credits to make a purchase of the desired sort for the keeper to unlock the sections for you. All the books are tagged with a spell, so if they are moved or vanish while you are inside, the keeper will know immediately and deduct from your credits first, then require physical payment. That's part of the reason for the single entrant rule. It's too easy for an immortal to set someone up by using a skill to grab a book off a shelf that is conveniently next to someone else. And that makes it difficult to determine who owes if the book can't be recovered. They're not big on having to collect after the fact. If we move past that, we've got more of the Spirit Immortal apartments. Once you've been here a bit longer, you can rent one of the larger units, or one that has upgrades like a training space, better mana gathering formations, or even dedicated servants from the clan staff so you don't have to hire your. Off on your left and right are the Void Immortal Villas. Power brings status, so they get separate housing and more cool stuff. My unit is on the far left, near the compound wall. I like the Solitude being further away from the main areas, because in the middle we have all the skill halls and the clan warehouse where you can turn in that token from the Elder. That is also where you go to find resources that are in stock. I would recommend mana crystals. The ability to store extra mana is overpowered. Dana took out a chicken egg-sized piece of mythic mana crystal, which she had made to keep her mana pool full in an emergency. We're not short on that. It's one of the skills that we have available, she explained. Right, mage class. If you want to make them for others, they're not particularly expensive, but they do tend to shatter a lot. Jean offered. Shatter? Why would they shatter? Right, you're new immortals. Mana crystal is a mortal grade resource. It isn't intended for the level of mana draw needed for immortal skills, or to be filled with immortal essence in the first place. So, it has a habit of shattering when it is depleted. Not really a big deal, you can just get another one, and it was empty anyhow, so it had served its purpose for the day. Oh, so they're more of a disposable resource in the immortal worlds? That's actually a great thing for mages. Perpetual demand if everyone keeps blowing them up.
Dana joked.
You should see what they do to equipment. Too many immortals have skills that target armor, and if you don't unequip them fast enough, they will destroy artifacts before they can be activated in a battle. It's a devious tactic, and something to watch out for while traveling the wilderness. Noted. Are there any other particularly popular tricks that we should know about? Jean sighed. Too many to conveniently name them right now. There are books on it in the library, you can look it up later and prepare yourself. It's best not to leave the clan so soon after advancement anyhow, but nearly every disciple needs to head out within a few months so that they can find opportunities. Just sitting around the house doesn't help your growth for 99 out of 100 immortals. There are some options here, like the training grounds. That's great for gaining resources, but only a few systems will get enough experience points out of it to make a meaningful difference at the immortal rank. Experience points? Jean frowned. Does your system not use them to track progress?
Dana shrugged.
We just guess until we get to a bottleneck. There isn't any sort of gauge, chart, or tracking system included. The dragon looked at her in horror. You, just guess? What sort of insane progression method is that? Wait, does that mean you don't even have experience increasing items or skills? We have comprehension increasing items for the fundamental rules. Dana offered. That's wonderful, but also shockingly bad. How do you even get ahead of your peers without experience bonuses? Well, everyone has a different level of affinity with the system, so we all have different growth rates. Class, affinity, species, even a few skills that improve growth rate, which I suppose are similar to experience bonuses. But they also make dragons grow faster, so they're certainly not the same thing. Jean tapped his chin as he considered their future. They were clearly growing well enough without experience point bonuses, and their system didn't seem to use them. So, maybe it was more like the cultivation-based systems or natural progression, where you had to build your power level without the assistance of bonuses. That could take forever. Some of those systems needed an eternal lifespan just to reach the supreme rank. His own system was based on clearly defined levels. It was concise, tidy, and predictable. His growth as a dragon was simply a bonus on top of his class bonuses, reinforcing the supremacy of dragons versus the lesser species at the same level. Take your payment sheet to the warehouse manager and exchange for credits, and you can come back later to buy what you need. I will show you the important spots around town once you've got the payment recorded. Jin's urgent tone told Carl that there was a risk of theft if he didn't turn it in, though he had it in his inventory. Presumably, the usual method involved extortion or a specialized skill. Kara had pilfer, but as far as Carl knew, it only worked on things that were physically on the target, not in their inventory. Carl stepped into the warehouse, and a young woman with bubblegum pink hair waved both hands in greeting. All he could think was that this had to be an immortal green dragon cleric. Nobody else had quite that brand of insanity. But when he got close, he realized he was not quite right. Her name was Min, and could see her system interface. She was a druid, not a cleric. But she was a green dragon. Welcome to the New Home Merchant Clan. Did you have something to exchange for credits? Carl smiled at her and nodded. Indeed. I traded the alchemy elder for some materials, and he gave me a payment sheet to turn in. He handed her the sheet, and the dragon's eyes got big. What did you trade him? Even if you sold an acolyte's life savings, you wouldn't get half this much. Carl laughed at the way she was practically vibrating with excitement. I had a rare plant that he needed for his work. It just happened to be worth quite a bit. I take it that I shouldn't have any issues buying basic upgrades for the apartment that my Dana mage and I are staying in with that. The dragon nodded repeatedly. Yes, you could buy anything you want for your Dana mage with that. Is she decorative? Or is she also planning to reach immortality? Behind him, Dana laughed and waved at the dragon. I'm already immortal. He's talking about his wife, not his pet. Oh, I misunderstood.
Hello, Dana Make.
I love your ears. Thanks. I love your hair. That color suits you. The dragon vaulted over the counter to give Dana a hug, and Jean had to restrain his laughter as Dana made a new friend, whether she wanted one or not. Then, the dragon waved at Nyan, who was waiting quietly at the door. You brought me all the fluffy ears today. And a bird. Is he friendly? Are you fond of water magic? The dragon considered that question much more carefully than he had expected, but came to a solid conclusion. Water is all right, but I actually prefer a sand scrub to get my scales clean. Nice. Hot sand gets you polished clean and relaxes the muscles. Hawk nodded in appreciation. This dragon wasn't too bad. Why is he a phoenix, but looks like a demonic crow? She asked. Because a phoenix doesn't fit in the room. The cashier blinked slowly, then her eyes lit up in understanding. It's a skill. He learned a transformation skill so that he could go all the places. That is wonderful. I wish that I had a transformation skill. I could be a bunny and sneak into the dorms and get all the bunny hugs. That sounds like a safety hazard. For them. Jean noted dryly. Bah. When was the last time that a green dragon harmed anything fluffy and inedible? The lady makes a good point. Carl agreed. Nyan giggled and pointed at Carl. You need to make friends with him, not the Dana mage. He's got some sort of fluff magnetism. Fluffy things can't resist him. I saw him give head pats to a dining hall server just this morning. The pure envy on the dragon's face was unmistakable. There is a skill that you can learn if the clan hall has it. The name is if not friend, why friend-shaped. And it will keep the bunnies from running away from you. The green dragon sighed sadly. Only clerics can use it. They have it and I can't use it. Not even as a druid, which is so close that I can normally use cleric skill books. Then she returned to her desk and entered the information from the payment slip, before filing it away in a cabinet under her desk. All done. My name is Min, and I work here from 1 hour before dawn until noon every day if you want to come visit me again. We certainly will. We have crafting skills, so your appraisal skills will be invaluable to us in the future. Carl agreed. Min took out a pair of glasses and stared at Dana for a moment, then smiled. I don't know who Lady Ray Bloodbath is, but I can see that all the other gear she is wearing was made by you at the mythic rank. Lady Ray is a bonded partner of mine, an immortal spider-type beast. It's a specialty of my class. Oh, right. The Chaos Badger is your partner as well, right? I heard that she pulled Amaldor's beard in a duel, then convinced him to let her take his class, even though she's already a proper immortal. I think they're actually going to be good friends. They're both proponents of the just punch him in the face school of negotiation. Carl agreed. Nyan stuck her head in the door. You should go meet her after your shift. I bet her ears are super soft. Min laughed at the cat girl. I bet they are. But I'm a green dragon, not stupid. Petting badgers is a tricky proposition. Well, Jean here promised that he would show us around the clan compound today, so we will let you get back to work. Carl informed Min, who was already back to whatever inventory task she had been doing when they arrived. All right, have fun. Don't forget to take them to the ice cream shop. Jean waved goodbye and rushed out of the warehouse. All right, there is no need to go to the residential areas, but we can go check the shopping and restaurant district. The New Home Merchant Clan is basically a small town, and you can find nearly anything that you need here. As Min said, there is an ice cream shop that is very popular among those with a sweet tooth. But before we get there, we will be passing by the park. That is the entrance to the trial grounds. They are the clan's prize training area and a major source of its resources. There is also an instance outside the clan, about 50 kilometers away. That one opens once a week, and there are often contests about who gets the limited number of spots. As it's contested between multiple groups, don't go unless you've got an ascended immortal with you for safety. After you get inside, the group can usually split up into weaker and stronger groups, but the fights outside often go on for an entire day and night before it opens. The park was a carefully manicured garden, with trimmed hedges, flower beds, stone benches where many people were either eating lunch or sharing sweets on an afternoon date. As you can see, most people find a regular job to fund their journey toward power. When you literally have forever, many decide to stop risking their lives for power and rely on the clan to keep them safe as they grow. Not that they can't fight, just that they don't often go out unless they've got a lead on something really good. The usual payment for workers is in resources that their system needs to grow. That is one of the advantages of being such a diverse group. We're not all competing for the same thing. Some of the groups that specialize all end up needing the same things, so the infighting causes them as many casualties as anything else. Carl shook his head in dismay. You would think that things would be better organized. Even the mortal worlds manage to mostly avoid that level of instability and arrange some sort of organization. Even the chaos-affiliated regions don't have that kind of organized violence to obtain resources. Jean looked disbelieving, and Dana laughed. Oh, they have violence, just not predictable levels or locations for it. Sometimes it's first come, first served, whoever can find it gets it. Other times a chance will appear in the middle of a populated area and everyone will fight over it. It's the level of acceptance for dysfunction that is the most shocking to us, as new arrivals. The divine fire dragon just shrugged. It is what it is. There aren't enough supreme ranked beings to stop the ascendant immortals from doing what they please. Carl paused before responding. Was that Misty he just saw walking by with ice cream? No, the aura felt wrong. It must just be a dragon that looked like her. Well, once we get our immortal spirits stabilized, we can join the fun. Your group is all fairly experienced, and I'm told that it is custom to bring a few newbies along as a meat shield.
Karl joked.
Nyan giggled. Yes. Unleash a badger on them and see what happens. Carl laughed as Dana petted the catgirl's head. Wait until we send the blood destruction demonic spider to play with them. She's got the most amazing necromantic magic. They won't know what hit them. She whispered. Someone taught a spider necromancy? What is going on in your mortal world? Nyan asked. Carl thought it would be funny. Kara announced, having snuck up on them after wandering away from the school during her break. She had 3 of the other children with her, and they were headed for the ice cream shop, but she didn't have any local currency, and she didn't know what a spirit stone or a mana coin was. Carl, I need money. We only have 30 minutes to get ice cream and get back. Carl, naturally, also didn't have money, but when he looked at his inventory, he saw that there was a column for clan credits showing, and a list of exchange rates. 1 credit was worth 1,000 mana coins, so Carl exchanged one, and passed 100 of them to Kara. I don't know what ice cream costs. Just keep the rest in your space, if it's enough. The kids looked at the bag of coins in awe, while Kara gave Carl a cheerful thumbs up and dragged them away. An ice cream cone with all the trimmings is 1/4 of a coin. Nyan whispered. Perfect. Then Kara will have spending money for a few days. I will have to make some stuff to exchange later. The catgirl winced. Exchanging clan credits for coins is not usually done. When did you do that, anyhow? But I suppose you just got here, so you haven't had a chance to exchange currencies yet. No, wait. You're from a mortal world, aren't you? Mortal realm metal coins aren't worth much here. Only the gold and silver ones have any real value, as the metals are used as decoration.
Karl shrugged.
The clan credits show in my system interface, so I exchanged them there. I assumed it was a function of the warehouse to bind my balance to my system interface, the way that guild currencies and items are available for exchange. As long as the rate isn't too low. Don't take lower than 200 per credit. That's what the money broker trades them for. Private trades are always at that rate or higher. Nyan assured him. In that case, I'm fine. Thank you, Nyan. The girls with Kara ran out of the ice cream shop laughing only a few seconds later, all carrying oversized waffle cones full of multicolored ice cream, cookies and sprinkles. The adults were all laughing as the children did their best not to dump their ice cream while rushing back for their afternoon classes. They would be in trouble for leaving the school grounds instead of eating at the school cafeteria, but every kid snuck out to get a treat now and then. It was just that the size of the ice creams were comically large, as Kara had splurged to get the best of the best, not the student discount special. Jin's grin betrayed a heavy dose of schadenfreude, anticipating the suffering that the students would undergo when they got back with massive cones of ice cream just in time for their classes. I need to make them new clothes. What are those? Those are awful. Rak noted, still recovering from her advancement and half awake. They're the school uniforms. I think that they're supposed to be awful. Keeps everyone from showing off their wealth. Dana informed her. Unacceptable. I will talk to them later. Once I have met with the important people. There are some extra stabby sorts here, and I shouldn't surprise them. It was unlike Ray to be cautious about showing herself, so she must have sensed something truly dangerous. Or, she might just have a much better grasp on the actual power level of the Ascendant Immortals than Carl or Dana did. Over here we have the shopping areas. You can find nearly anything that you want in this area. The section we're in is mostly snacks and fast food, as it's near the park, and on the other side of the park is the crafting area where a lot of members work. It's busiest at lunch and mid-afternoon, when everyone is moving to and from work. Once you get further back, there are higher-end shops, taverns, and restaurants. Those get busier in the evenings, but most of the busiest spots in town are actually open all the time. There is a lot of activity after dark. Some species prefer it, some specialties require it for peak efficiency. So we're not really strict about times. If you follow me this way, we can get some ice cream as well, and make our way to the market square. That's the only spot in town that you will usually find goods brought from outside the clan. Some get resold in stores, but almost everything that you find here is made here. Being immortals, everyone who has started on the Void Immortal stage usually has at least a small spiritual space of some sort. Like you mentioned, it can be used to store or even produce goods. The magical items are the most common. Put a mundane item in your spiritual space and imbue it with power until it gains the status of a magical item. It's not as good as magical crafting, but it's good for making charms, turning mortal cloth into immortal clothing items, and so on. Dana snapped her fingers as she realized what he meant. It's not creating an item, they need the item to begin with, they just upgrade it in their spiritual space to meet local standards. That's a brilliant use. I never thought of doing that. Jean smiled ruefully. Now I feel like I have given away some sort of great trade secret that I should not have. But you are right. The mortals make almost all the items, and then we upgrade them with our immortal spirit. I suppose that, in a way, it is a trade secret. But if I am making things at the immortal rank innately, they won't be all common and uncommon grade items. Carl agreed. The Divine Fire Dragon frowned. If you really can make rare-grade immortal rank items with a crafting skill, instead of with a high ascendant immortal spirit, I'm going to have to fight to remain your friend.
Karl schrugged.
I think that you'll find we're good friends to have when we finally get adjusted to the immortal worlds. The real challenge will be getting the materials to do the crafting. But that can wait until later. I think that we should spend a few of these credits and renovate our space a little bit. The room is pretty well decorated by my tastes, but I have a skill to create a small separate space for training. It's larger than the space that it actually occupies, so I will need more furniture and decorations. Then, my resident fashionista will need samples of the local clothing, especially what is deemed most fashionable for the ladies, and perhaps a few of the less expensive alchemy reagents. Just things to make the basic potions at the immortal rank. Nyan looked excited. You have a secret space skill? What sort? Illusionary domain. It's perfect for housing upgrades. She smiled and spun Dana in a circle. Oh, we're going to have so much fun getting real stuff to put in the illusionary apartment. I had to pay to have that done to my rooms, but it is so totally worth it. Everyone thinks that the back dorms are crappy little spaces, but we're immortals, they don't have to stay that way. Honestly, the space wasn't bad by any standard. It had everything that they needed, and it even had built-in magical upgrades. But a couple illusionary domain spells to increase the size of the bedroom and living room would be a welcome addition. Carl didn't know how much he could do with it at immortal rank, but he suspected that it would be much larger than it had been at mythic rank, and even more solid when he used it with reality warp. That also gave him a good reason to check out the whole town, other than the residences. You never knew what shop was hiding the thing you wanted. The first place on their shopping trip after ice cream was a store that sold immortal rank lingerie. Carl gave Nyan a dubious look, and she raised her hands defensively. I swear, it's a coincidence. It's the closest of the shops that we need to go to, and you said that your fashionista friend wants to know all about what is popular here. Well, most of us spend half our day in whatever is comfortable around the house. So, this is the most important, and then next to us are dresses and training robes. Those are next most important. The furniture shops are on the other side of the equipment shops, closer to the open market. Carl turned to Jean. How about we finish our ice cream and have a nice sit down on the bench out here while the ladies shop? They could be a while, and if I go in to give fashion suggestions in this particular store, I suspect that our entire tour will get sidetracked. Dana laughed and then rolled her eyes when Ray's insistence that she go in flooded the link. Jean smiled at Carl's phrasing, but paused before replying. Sending Dana in with Nyan might give people the wrong impression, as Nyan's past and employment choices had left her with an unsavory reputation. However, Dana was married to Carl, so most would likely see it as an enviable state for the World Dragon's avatar to be in. Who wouldn't want a wife as stunningly beautiful as a divine fox? Because it was definitely for him, there was no way that it could be comfortable enough that anyone would choose to wear it for themselves. It was worn to be seen. All right, let them shop, and we will check the shops across the street until they're done. The shop he indicated was something like a convenience store, in that it sold packaged snacks, personal hygiene items, and other necessities that one would grab on their way home from work. Nyan giggled. You can go to the next shop. It sells dresses and robes, but the training robes are also for menswear. You see them all over on the martial arts sorts. They're quite comfortable, and you can wear them with light armor while still looking normal. Jean smiled. As soon as we finish kading, Carl says that he is a craftsman, so perhaps he can make armor suitable to go under the robes. The monk classes are always short on armor.
Karl nodded.
Actually, I know a leatherworker who could do very well for them and the rogues. Though, with those folded robes, a short-sleeved chain tunic might be best. Light and flexible, flat to the skin so it can be worn like an undershirt, and if I make it right, it won't even limit mobility in any significant way. The dwarves were actually spectacular at that, and if he opened a portal back home, he could load up on items from the guild store bank. Wait, wouldn't that give Azov an immediate headache? He was helping keep portals from the immortal realms from opening so that the world wasn't breached. Carl realized that he should have moved more than just a few crafters into the tiny world before moving. He didn't have any of the dwarven masters with him in the immortal world. He did have a selection of items in his storage, intended to upgrade later as they traveled. But he couldn't just commission new ones. Ask the elves. There are elves in the tiny world, and they have craftsmen. They make such pretty stuff that they should be able to make you chain mail. Tian suggested. Elves? Why did he have elves? Didn't he give all of those to Matilda? Or did Tian mean the ones among the first group he had gathered? The druids. That was when Carl realized that he never remembered to lock the Alliance House entrance to the tiny world, and that with his bonuses to portal opening, such as being able to freely move between adjacent planes, it had not broken when he came here. There were still guild members coming and going from the city in the mountain, where the portal currently opened. That was probably not a good thing, given what he knew about the snooping abilities of the immortals. But it wasn't actually an opening in the protections of the tiny world, just a stable portal that opened inside, so it might be fine. The problem was that he couldn't properly check, as he could see inside it anyhow. But he wasn't going to draw attention to it and have others deliberately attempt to find and invade it. Not when it was full of ridiculously valuable resources. If they hadn't noticed it by now, Carl had some hope that it was all right, so he didn't force the portal closed. The tiny world was something of a guild resource, after all. It had many of the plants their alchemists needed, and it served as the overflow workspace for the other crafters, as well as a vacation resort. And now that it was becoming immortal ranked, adjusting to his power, wouldn't it be something like the secret area of the New Home Merchant clan, but on a lesser scale? He already had a training tower in there for the guild members and residents to practice in. But if they could come in, that meant that Carl didn't have to go anywhere to access the guild bank. The open link would let him access it by proximity, as long as he connected himself to the tiny world. The guild really is going to grow fast now, aren't they? Thor pondered as he floated in the lake with Tessa on his back. Faster than any other guild in the Xylaz region. Hopefully, the Alliance is not too upset with us advancing and leaving them shorthanded. That connection was a major source of funding for the guild. Thor chuckled. They're not mad. The guild is still managing things and sending them the supplies they need, as well as the stuff for the arena. But we can ask Sapphire to recruit some more mythic dragons to live in Xylaz, so they can help with the dungeons. Just give them the good golem spells and it will be fine. As they chatted, Carl followed Jean into the clothing shop, where he found all sorts of comfortable-looking robes and suits, as well as a massive selection of ladies' fashion. Interesting, they use an illusionary domain in here as well. Is that common in the city? He asked the divine fire dragon. I wouldn't say common. It's a luxury, but it's not uncommon, if that makes sense. So, not everyone has one sort of practice, but common enough that luxury shops would use it to increase the space in their shops and give a more luxurious experience. It does. Now, we can start over here with the Hanfu styles. Jean looked confused until Carl pointed. Oh, is that what they call them in your world? We just call them robes. Layered robes, training robes, summer robes. Ray winced in linguistic agony. The words that the dragon used were essentially the same, and were just the word for clothing in 3 different languages. It was the system that translated them to the common tongue for them, which meant that the dragon likely heard Karl's response as Han clothing. Interplanetary cultural conflicts were a marketing nightmare. But the clothing in here was nice. She wanted to come out and explore it. Hey Jean, what is the policy on new arrivals? One of my bonded partners wants to come shop, but she hasn't met everyone yet. The divine fire dragon shrugged. The badger shows as a member because she's bonded to you, so this one should as well. Someone might initiate her, but that comes with the territory. Ray appeared behind him, incorporeal in Night Haunter form. Do you promise? Don't threaten me with a good time, she whispered in a sultry tone. The dragon shivered, then turned to see who was speaking. Oh, this one is going to be trouble, he muttered, as Ray solidified in front of him. She was wearing an embroidered silk dress with an ornately decorated coat, both in gold on black silk. Her long black hair was curled and pinned up to hold a golden tiara on her head, and for some reason, she was wearing glasses. I have done research. Glasses are popular. Males think they make a woman look more alluring. But Jin's attention was noticeably lower on her anatomy than her glasses. I guess we found his type. Ray joked. Good afternoon. My name is Ray Bloodbath. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Jean. She extended her hand politely, then gave a confused blink when Jean raised it and kissed the top of her hand. A pleasure to meet you, Lady Ray. He was going to say something else, but the store clerk pushed between them and vigorously shook Ray's hand in both of hers. Lady Ray, so wonderful to meet you. I've been admiring your fashions since yesterday, when the Karl and the Dana Mage first arrived in the dining hall. Your style is incredible. Who supplies your silk? It is absolutely flawless, she gushed. Karl pulled Jean back. You can talk to Ray later. She will be busy talking fashion with the shopkeeper for a while. Once she gets talking about fashion, she gets distracted. He dragged the dragon over to the men's section, while Ray pulled the shopkeeper to the ladies' fashion. There was so much she had to learn about casual wear in this world. The fancy dresses were actually similar to what she already knew, but the casual wear was all different, made with an expectation of combat, but somehow not made to be armor, only to be worn with it. These look comfortable. Is there a reason you don't wear them instead of the ones you have on? Karl asked, looking at a casual suit. They don't work with armor, so they're not suitable for travel. They're quite popular with businessmen, but not so much with those of us who spend a lot of time sparring or traveling. I am only in the clan territory about half the time. In fact, I'm leaving again in the morning. I will be taking Alicia, Brother Chin and Argoth along with a group of students on a training exercise into the wilderness. They're learning how to gather resources safely, and we all graduated from herbology classes, though we never took up the alchemy profession. Going out like that, we expect that someone will try to either poach or snipe our rookies, so we have to be ready to fight all the time, and having 2 sets of fashion for home and away is just a hassle. Karl looked at the suit he had on and shrugged. Well, I just use a skill to make my armor, so I guess I don't notice as much. I might change, though. When visiting the temples, we all wear robes. The comfort and freedom are hard to argue with. Jean laughed. Oh, I almost forgot that you are a friend of the Green Dragons.
Karl nodded.
Pants under robes are overrated. From behind the counter, Karl heard the cashier giggled. Sir, there are robes like that if you prefer. These styles are intended to be worn as a 3-piece outfit, for if you add the coat. Karl shook his head. No, I will reserve that for visits to the Dragon God temples. On a daily basis, it's better to keep my pants on. The staff member who was with Ray came to the front with a whole armload of clothing, all casual wear. She had a look on her face that said she had just won the commission salesperson lottery, and Ray was still exploring the store. With less enthusiasm than before her first pass, but she would likely pick a few more items. Put her shopping on my tab. I will take these 3 as well. One of each style to see what I like best. Karl decided. Really, he would just give them to Ray and let her make him something that suited him in human form. It had been so long since he stayed human that he wasn't even sure what looked good on him anymore. But Azof was right about the fact that a cat demon would be horribly out of place here. Even the few demons who lingered around the clan were an anomaly, and they were all mainstream wrath and obsession demon species. He would have to ask Jean about that sometime. There was most likely an excellent reason that only a few species gathered here. Possibly just racial animosity. But it might be due to differences in growth style between them. The few wrath demons he had seen were mostly tanks for travel groups or combat instructors. They were just about to check out when the door chimed, marking the entrance of more shoppers, and Carl felt a sudden surge of killing intent. I knew it was true, he really did get the money, a man's voice declared. Carl turned and found that 4 men were standing near the door, while one stood near Ray with a blade at her throat. Don't do anything stupid, and nobody gets hurt. Just transfer over the credits, and we won't kill your little goth girlfriend. The apparent ringleader of the group, a human man in the later spirit immortal stage, if Carl's guess was right, insisted. His aura was stronger than the others, but Carl could still feel that there was something missing, the immortal spirit only partially formed. Carl gave the cashier an apologetic look. I'm sorry for what's about to happen. The girl looked confused, and the leader of the group made a signal to his crony, whose blade sunk through Ray's suddenly incorporeal body. Mana surged through Carl's body as he dumped every single bit of his mana reserve into purgatory flames. For an instant, horror dawned on the immortal's face. Then a ball of ghostfire hotter than the sun and 1,000 times stronger than a standard fireball exploded at his location, engulfing all 4 men standing near the door. The explosion that came after blasted the windows out of the shop and knocked all the clothing racks over. There were no more enemies standing in front of them, but the one next to Ray had survived. For a moment, the blast had made him stumble, and Ray was now in spider form, pinning him face down with 2 spiked legs, while her forelegs repeatedly stabbed holes in his body. Not using any skill, Carl noted. She was just punching holes in him for fun, and watching them heal before she stabbed him some more. A pair of elders appeared in the room, swords raised. Everyone, drop your weapons. What is going on here? There is no violence allowed in the clan village. This man and his allies attacked me and my companion while we were shopping. The dagger is still in his hand. You can confirm that with the staff. The elders frowned as Ray shifted back into her humanoid form and absorbed all the blood that had sprayed around where she was fighting. Nobody in the room was carrying a weapon but the man who had been mauled on the ground. What a lies! The other elder demanded. They were standing right there. I hit them with a fire skill when they attacked. The clerk nodded rapidly, her eyes terrified as she watched Carl. Speak. It's like he said. They wanted his clan credits and attacked the spider lady. Then boom and fire and they were gone and my boss is going to kill me. Oh God. I've got to put all that back on the shelf. Who will fix the windows? Oh, I don't know. Elder. Help. Deep breath. Where did they go? I think he killed them. Carl shrugged, while Jean tried to make himself inconspicuous. Jean. Explain. They didn't even give him a chance to settle things with a challenge. They just attacked. I don't know what happened with the fireball. It vaporized a whole chunk of the shop. You shouldn't do that. I swear it shouldn't. The shop was slowly repairing itself, the illusionary domain spell intact, despite the damage. But the physical structure underneath was damaged by the blast, and Carl realized that at immortal rank, the Purgatory Flame spell was overkill. His mana would be recovered in 2 or 3 minutes, but immortal energy was far more potent than he had expected. All right, you're all coming with us. The interrogators will get answers. You, the one named Carl. Your spell damaged the building, you fix it. You have 2 minutes to make arrangements. Carl closed his eyes and focused on the building itself. It was all stone other than the windows. Earth manipulation returned it to its original state in a few seconds, and then he turned to the clerk. How much do I owe you for the shopping, the damaged stock, and the cleanup fee? The clerk turned a notepad to him with shaking hands. That's 500 for the shopping and the damaged clothing. Carl put 600 coins on the counter. That should cover your wages and inconvenience for restocking. I'm really sorry about this. The elder looked impressed at Carl's decisive actions. But at that moment, Dana and Nyan rushed in. The new fox? Do you know this man? That's my husband, Carl. We joined the clan together, as we advanced the same day. Oh, I see. You can come with us? And bring your pet cat. The Carl and the spider have been detained for destruction of property. What did you do?
Dana Maud.
Some idiots attacked Ray trying to rob us. I guess I should have been a bit more discreet about having money.
Dana sighed.
I got the shopping done at the other store. I will come bail you out of jail. Carl hoped that was how it worked here. The mention of interrogators didn't promise a quick and painless bail process. The elder glared at Ray. Remain corporeal until informed otherwise. Attempts to flee will be seen as a sign of betrayal of clan rules. Follow us to the judgment hall. The man Ray had been stabbing crawled to his knees, then collapsed. She had stolen too much of his life force, and he was barely able to stand, though his regeneration was working properly. The second elder grabbed him by the shirt and dragged him out the door, then flew off. Carl followed silently, painfully aware that he had gone way overboard, and was definitely in trouble this time, without a reliable backer to get him out of it. But the other elder didn't move right away. He held a glowing golden orb in his hands, and cast a spell that felt like holy magic. The four vaporized immortals slowly faded back into existence, shattering the peace of the shopping district with their screams. You are under arrest for assault and attempted robbery. Follow me. The clan will deduct your resurrection fees from your available credits. Damn, not even being dead gets you out of jail time here. But do you feel the aura of these elders? Ascended immortals are no joke. Their power is crazy. Ray insisted. Carl gave a faint smile as the resurrected immortals cowered in terror at the sight of him. That was a much better response. Ray smirked at him, wholeheartedly agreeing. There were many things to learn about this world, but the fact that they didn't need a body to resurrect people was a huge revelation. It must be an advantage of the immortal spirit. Carl, the power imbalance between the beasts is messing with your thoughts again.
Dana warned.
Right. I will keep an eye on that. Just wait patiently when we get to the court. I think that they're going to insist on some intensive questioning. That thought also interested Ray. She knew pain. Everything about it, in fact. Perhaps they had other methods of interrogation. The flight was a short one, and Ray passed Carl a fresh set of mythic ranked robes, closer to the style of the locals as they landed. They were red and black, embroidered with gold, and looked suitably impressive for a formal court hearing, she thought. The elders who had brought Carl and Dana to the clan were seated behind a desk with unimpressed looks. Less than 24 hours and you're already here? I had thought that you were a bit smarter than that. My apologies, elder. It was a lapse of judgment. The arresting elders handed over a single sheet of paper, which lit up to project an illusionary scene when the peak immortal elder tapped it. The scene of the altercation replayed, complete with quiet voices. The judge's scowls turned from one member of the detained group to another, but Carl caught a slight smile when he saw Ray repeatedly stabbing the man on the ground. Starting with you as you were alive for all of it. What motivated you to get involved in this idiocy? The elder demanded of the man with the shredded robes, where Ray's legs had punched holes in him. Elder, it was just an initiation. The newbie got a load of clan credits from the alchemy elder. We just wanted to shake him down for some resources, remind him of his place in the hierarchy. The elder's smile didn't reach his eyes. It seems that you misjudged. Yes, elder. We misjudged. My injuries were the result of my own mistake. And Eugene, you should know better. Sorry, elder. The arresting elder shrugged. In his defense, there was not much time to react and stop the escalation. You four, do you agree with your companion's version of events? The strongest of them shook his head. Elder, it was just a prank. We didn't do anything. And we were brutally murdered by the newcomer. Carl glared at him and the man whimpered in fear. With Rack now an immortal, his aura had gotten extra murderous, and Carl was not in a good mood at the moment, which the defeated immortal was playing up, to make himself look like the victim. The other three nodded in agreement. Elder, it was completely uncalled for. Hazing new arrivals is a time-honored tradition. Violence is prohibited outside the arena. We certainly wouldn't have done anything violent. The elder watched the video again, then turned to Carl. You claim they attacked, but I don't see them taking any violent actions. I only struck after he ordered his man to stab Ray. It was defensive, and they entered as one attacking group, not as individuals. The elders watched it again. No direct orders were given. Your attack might have been provoked, but it was preemptive.
Karl schrugged.
When a single strike is the difference between life and death, hesitation is suicidal. The elder looked ready to retort, but a meaningful look at the replay by his counterpart made him pause. One strike had indeed been the difference between life and death. Carl's estimation was correct, if you viewed the conflict entirely through the lens of his own power level. Request a grudge match.
Jin whispered in Karl's ear.
Now, how do we settle this? We can't have more fights in the clan, and there is no consensus between parties. The peak immortal elder pondered. We could have the interrogators get the truth of their intent. That would tell us if it was a misunderstanding. The arresting elder suggested. Again with the interrogators. The threat of them made the other 5 plus Jean all go pale in fear. Elder, if I may? Carl began. You have a proposal? I would like to settle this with a grudge match. Let power decide the truth. That made the men go even more pale than the threat of the interrogators did. Carl had already killed 4 of them in a single strike, and now he wanted to challenge them one at a time. Wasn't that just bullying? The arresting elders both smiled at the thought. They had a pretty good idea what had happened. The 5 men had come up with a brilliant plan to shake down the newbie to put him in his place, only to walk into a brick wall and get one hit wiped by the World Dragon's avatar. It would serve them right if the clan let Carl beat them senseless and make them pay him reparations. The peak elder scoffed. I won't force that. Though you're technically both spirit immortals, your unique advantages effectively put you a rank over the defender. He would have to agree to the challenge. It is his choice. Carl noticed that a group of clan members had gathered behind them, silently filling the seats to watch the outcome of the trial. Word spread fast through the clan, and many had felt the healing magic that brought someone back to life. Fortunately for them, the scene was still replaying from the parchment. Did you see that? 4 kills with 1 hit and he didn't even move. The newbie is a monster. What the hell did he even hit him with? It shook me out of meditation from halfway across town. Did he set off a nuke in the shopping district? Forget that, he doesn't even flinch when his partner gets stabbed. Just go straight for the kill. Do you think he came from a death cult? Nah, he doesn't smell like the Black Dragon. The woman in black is a spider, though. The spider goddess isn't a death god. Not really. Nobody's going to ask what's up with the bird? That demonic crow is creeping me out. Hawk fluttered his wings a little as he fell asleep and almost fell off Carl's shoulder. He had gotten too used to being in his space all the time, where he could nap freely. Are we in big trouble? That blast was glorious. Even the immortals must admit to the supremacy of fire. Carl resisted the urge to laugh at the bird. They're determining how much trouble we're in. I would say it's probably a lot, though. The elder tapped his gavel on the table to silence the muttering in the stands. We have come to a decision. The attack by the Carl on these 4 was a provoked violation of the no-violence rule. While they may have come to start violence, they didn't strike at him or any other clan member. For striking at non-combatants and property damage, Carl will be sentenced to 100 hours of community service, plus repairs which have already been made. Does he have a patron within the clan? Jean made a gesture as if to say that he couldn't help. There was a moment of silence. Then a raspy voice spoke up. I will stand as patron to the Carl. His 100 hours of public service will be served under my supervision and direction. The alchemy elder insisted. Carl tried not to react beyond a polite bow. If he did more, it could be misinterpreted. But he knew that he had things the elder needed, so there was a chance that this punishment might not be terrible. For unprovoked assault on a member within the clan, Golic will be sentenced to 10 strikes with the flog at the public pole, and to 500 hours of public service. Does he have a patron within the clan? An ascended immortal stood. I will stand as his patron. The elder nodded. Will you stand as patron for the other 4 as well? I will. They will serve 50 hours of public service for their role in the unprovoked assault. Those are the end of the charges. The man who had vouched for the 5 attackers stared pointedly at Ray, but the judge just shrugged. She didn't do anything warranting punishment. She was attacked first, and did not damage any property with her response. The Ascended Immortal clearly was not happy with that decision. He could see that she had deliberately tortured and tormented his underling. But if the elders serving as judges said that she was in the right, he couldn't force them. All that he could do was lead his 5 faction members out of the judgment hall and accept the convict bracelets for them on the way out. The guards brought one for Carl as well, and he noted how the runes glowed with a pending countdown. The guard passed it to the elder, who activated it with a pulse of mana and clipped it on Carl's wrist. Let's go. I fear that there is a lot you need to learn about clan rules. At the mention of learning rules, Hawk retreated to his space, while Ray wandered into the stands to find Dana. Jean will keep your ladies safe. No need to worry about that. You will follow me back to the alchemy labs, and we will get started on your studies before you start your public service. Ray waved. We will be at the apartment when you finish. As they walked, the elder began to outline the nuances that Jean hadn't gotten around to explaining for Carl. The first thing you need to know is how to start a fight properly. It's not an offense to fight if you don't cause serious injury or property damage. The guards also won't strongly enforce extortion attempts unless they meet the same standard. Therefore, the first few strikes of a battle should be unarmed and without skills. The art of trash talking, of provocation, are essential to fighting within the clan. If you slap them and they slap back, you can either fight right where you are, if you can do it without breaking anything, or demand an immediate move to the arena. If they have already struck back, they can't refuse the arena challenge. Public humiliation of weaklings who try to stand up for themselves is common. So, the real choice is if they want a beating or to lose their resources. Your case is a bit different, as clearly they are idiots and they couldn't win the fight. So, there is an additional consideration. Many of the clan members are allied to a clique. If they don't matter or don't display their affiliation, feel free to beat them. But if they do, you risk offending their group's leader. The elder today, who vouched for them, leads their faction. However, they weren't wearing any sign of affiliation. They aren't considered worthy of it, as his group is powerful, and they're just errand-running lackeys who forgot their place.
Carl nodded.
I think I get where I went wrong, but I have one question. Their sentence, 50 hours of community service and repayment for the healing, can their patron just dismiss that on their behalf? Like you've just said, these incidents are normal. So, is the punishment a non-issue for established members? The elder chuckled. Quite the opposite. There are a number of prescribed acceptable punishments for public service, and if you don't do them within 30 days, I have to do them on your place as your patron elder. If nobody stood for you, you would have been expelled from the clan as a troublemaker, by the way. And only an elder can stand for an accused criminal. So, the man who Ray had stabbed had 30 days to finish 500 hours of community service. That was nearly 16 hours a day for the next month. Truly a harsh sentence, depending on the tasks. The tasks are all things that serve the clan as a whole, and are all done in public areas, unpaid. There is also a uniform involved, but you are in luck, as I am the Alchemy Hall elder. Unless I send you out to sweep streets, your punishment uniform will be the one that the Alchemy Hall uses, and it is marginally less degrading than some of the others. Carl gave him a suspicious look, and the elder smirked, then gestured to a man in a black vest and pants, with a bright gold shirt. That is the uniform of the clan hall staff, with a different shirt color for each hall. However, yours will be plain gray, denoting your status as being on punishment detail. I expect that you are going to be a fast learner, as I am short one cashier, and I will not accept any damage to the reception area.
Carl smiled.
Working as a cashier wasn't bad, and the uniform wasn't terrible. Other than the fabric, as Carl quickly realized. The uniform that prisoners wore was deliberately designed to make them miserable, in tightly woven heavy canvas that didn't breathe at all. It appeared to be waterproof, fireproof, and self-repairing, despite being coarsely woven. It was also two-toned, with light and dark gray stripes, so nobody would mistake a convict for anything else, even from a distance. Though it did at least have short sleeves, presumably so the convict couldn't hide weapons or steal from orders. Carl subtly activated Eternal Lightning under it, which solved the temperature regulation issue, and stepped out of the changing room to meet the elder to see what his task would be. During the evening hours, at the very minimum, you will be here until your 100 hours are up. You take the orders, write them down, and the runners will fill them. You do not have clearance to enter the herb rooms, though I suspect you are trustworthy, as you have your own stockpile. Take the payment, put it in the register which is linked to the clan bank. Simple.
Karl nodded.
All right, I don't see any issues here. One of the other Alchemy Hall elders snorted in derision, then caught himself. Mocking and harassing convicts is common, but you can't get into fights as it will extend your time for fighting during punishment detail. Learning to hold your temper will be an excellent learning experience for someone who thinks that instant kill skills are the appropriate response to harassment. One of the girls behind the counter gave Carl an assessing look. Carl might be in a lot of trouble with the elders, but she totally understood. If she had the option to simply kill men who harassed her, she would have done it decades ago. Unfortunately, her so-called divine training manual had actually been a mortal rank item, and she had struggled to advance after reaching immortality. None of the methods she had tried worked properly for her. Come stand over here, I will teach you the basics. Do you at least know the names of some of the herbs? The petitioners often forget them or use nicknames.
Karl nodded.
I know names from my world, but I don't know if they're the same as in this world. She sighed. I don't know if we're lucky or cursed that the elder chose to put you on counter duty for your public service. Sweeping the courtyard would have been fine too. One of the other girls nodded. Yummy. Shirtless in the sun with those muscles. I would definitely vote for sweeping duty if we got a choice. Carl winked at her. Well, if this is a prisoner fashion show, I have transformation spells. The two girls laughed. I don't think that a world dragon is going to fit in the reception area. Hey, I'm not that lame. I can do cat demon and Tengu as well. The elder pretended to cough into his sleeve to hide his laughter. A trickster demon and a crow demon from the Fey realms? His god had a sense of humor when it came to transformations, as they were both evil by nature. Not forms that you could casually wear around the immortal worlds without putting everyone you met on guard against you. Nothing sexy and elemental? Well, there is one. Carl activated Elemental's Wrath, one of Hawk's favorite spells, as it made him bigger and even more fire elemental. On Carl, it just increased his height, covered his skin in dark flame, and made him float a bit over the floor. The girl whistled. Oh, that's not bad at all. A dark flame elemental transformation. Can you use dark flame naturally? Carl shifted back and activated the flame in his palm. I am quite adept with fire. Is that your fundamental rule? The shocked look on the other girl's face said that this question was much more personal than it sounded.
Unfortunately, no.
I also tried for the fundamental rule of sexiness, but that didn't work out either, so I had to go for a third option. The elder snorted and shook his head. All right, you are all getting along well enough. Teach the newbie how things work. He can handle all the customers while he is here. I will be working the counter in the Alchemy Hall as punishment. Overnights, so I won't be back tonight. Carl informed the others. All right, I will yell at you when you get home. Jean says we could have issues. Even if he didn't like them, those idiots were under the protection of another elder. And a supreme rank resurrection from spirit only is expensive. 100 clan credits each. That price was insane. The kilogram of super rare elf grass had hardly gotten him enough to resurrect one person. But going by their days spending, 100 clan credits was more than most of the newer immortals would earn in a year. It was definitely a scam to keep them in debt to the clan. Presumably, it wouldn't be necessary often, as most forms of death left an intact corpse. But if you were killed by something horrific and the body could not be recovered, it was good to know that you could be brought back from just your immortal spirit. Now, Carl just needed to know where he could find a supreme rank healing item, or whether the rescue method was possible by an immortal with a healing specialty. Tion would know when he advanced, but that might take some time, as the fox was a slow-growing species. Even with the acceleration of Carl's space, he was still far from being a full-grown stone-fur divine fox. Thor had his own ideas about that. In his estimation, while everyone else wanted to grow up big and powerful, being small and adorable was such a strong part of Tion's personality that it was actually slowing his physical development, despite his power level actually growing as well as most of the others. The fox was napping, so he couldn't confirm or deny the accusation, but it did make sense.